Using recycled corrugated cardboard, I've gone ahead and pre-made a journal cover. I've grabbed some fabrics, jelly prints, and some digitals so that we can start working on the winner's soul junk journal. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Livie's Lovelies, your inspirational craft channel, and I'm your host, Fam the Fabulous. For more ideas, inspiration, swaps, and challenges, click the link in the description below to join our craft community, the Maker Exchange, on Facebook. All right, so I went to my stash and I was looking for, some fabrics that I could use on the journal, the cover of the journal. And I found this, which I was gifted several years ago, at least 3 or 4 years ago. And I thought it would be nice in a small amount on the cover. Now, the base of the cover, I'm going to attempt to use, this is actually the cover or the packaging, if you will, that a sheet set came in that I purchased for my son's room. So as you can see here, it's from Walmart. It says sheet set. So it was a wrapper all the way around it. And I went on ahead and took off the bulk of it. And what I plan to do is just deconstruct this, maybe pull the seams out or the stitching out from off the seams. And, or if I may have to cut it and just go ahead and use that as the primary color for the exterior of the journal. So it just depends on how much fabric I end up getting from it. But the fact that I was able to, this is kind of how I gauged whether or not I could use it. I just slid this journal in and there was still ample for it. So I think it'll work. Just have to kind of be careful as to where I cut or, where I pull the seams from. Rip the seams. That's, got to pull out the handy dandy seam ripper. So that's what I'm going to do. But give me just a second and I'm going to look and see if I can cut it, I'm going to cut it. So listen, you always have to be mindful of the packaging that you get. Because as you can see, you get unconventional packaging like such, but you can still use it. It's not paper, but you can use it as the cover. So we have this like this. If I take this part off, then I can I can cut it. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so I was able to detach that Velcro from this side, and I'm not sure if I'm going to need to take it off from the other side, but actually what I am going to do is put this off to the side and use this for something else. It's a full strip of Velcro, waste not, want not, right? So I'm not going to play around with this right now, but I'll probably take this one off. I may cut it off for now and then just use it later. So I'm just taking off the extra pieces of string, and I believe I can go ahead and begin cutting. Let me get this out of the way for now because I'm not using the paper. I'm really just going to construct the cover, but I may use either the collage as a fabric background or as I believe it's on cardstock. So all right, so here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to need to take this, and I believe that I can go ahead and cut along the seam instead of messing around with that seam ripper for this. I can just go ahead and cut along the seam. And then what I think I want to do is attach this fabric to either the material that you iron on to stiffen your fabric up, or the one that you iron on to give it some depth for like quilting. One of those two. I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with. All right, so we know we got that much on that side, so I'm going to have to cut down the middle of this seam. Well, actually, something tells me that was not a good idea. It sure was not. It'll be fine now. One way or the other, we'll work it on out. Okay. So what do we have here? We have this is enough to cover that side. And then this is barely enough to cover the other side. So I'm going to have to piece it together. How would I do that? Let's see. Okay. Here's what I think I want to do. I may cut this and run fabric up the top and bottom. I just got to figure out what that would look like. Or, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this completely off, and that'll be the front, because they do not have to be together, especially if you know you're going to cover the spine with something else. I mean, you're going to cover it anyways. So that'll be for the front. This side will be for the back. And what I need to do now is iron, find the material that goes behind it. So give me just a moment. Actually, you know what? It just occurred to me. I can go ahead and, so as long as I'm wrapping here, okay, I need to be able to wrap on that side. I'm going to cut off this edge here. So I'm cutting off this hem. It's just going to get glued in. So I need enough space on it for it to wrap like that. So, and then I'm going to do the same over here. Let me go ahead and make sure I know the length that I want to go with for. So I need top, I need bottom. So this is all excess right here. So I'm just going to take this and then use that as the pattern for the second part of the cover, the back half of the cover. All right. Okay, let me just cut this a little straighter. I do have a rotary blade, but I'm not pulling that out right now. It's in with my sewing stuff, which is just 4 feet behind me. But I'm not getting it. All right, so I'm going to use this as a template for this one. So I'm just going to cut the top part off. Okay. And then the bottom. And then the sides. I'm cutting slightly outside of it because what I'm actually going to do is, you'll see in just a moment. Ouch, I almost cut myself. Did I? Nope, I didn't. Okay, good enough. Now, let's just see something here. If I do this like this, even if I just sewed them together, what would I get? I should have thought about that beforehand, right? It'll be tight. And I don't have enough, I need at least half of an inch to wrap around the sides. I might get it, but I also need 1/8 of an inch. Let's see. Nope, just barely. So I'm just going to run something up the center, and then I'll move on from there. One moment. All right, so I found a little bit of t-shirt, an old t-shirt. It was probably one of my favorites too. I can just tell by the material. You know how you like, I can't be the only one, but I particularly like the t-shirts that that have like it's a blend where it's thin and it flows and it's not stiff, but it's not too thick either, you know. I especially like them when they get a little bit worn. Right, and cut that edge off. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to join these all together. This will just serve as the spine, you know. It doesn't even matter because it's going to get covered in some form or fashion. But I'm confident this will be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and sewn those together. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over and... That's not even... I don't think it matters, though. Does it? Doesn't matter. It's a little crooked. Yep, it's crooked right in there. Let me go and fix that. All right, that's a little bit better. I will tell you, one thing about the stretchy fabrics is you got to be careful that you are sewing a straight line, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it over. I'm going to show you the fabric that I'm talking about, the material that I'm talking about. It's not really fabric. It kind of is, but it isn't. But I'm going to show it to you. All right, so this is called fusible fabric, fusible fleece. There's fusible fabric, and then there's fusible fleece. Fusible fabric is thinner than this, and it makes the fabric a little bit more sturdier, especially if like you're making handbags or things that need a little bit of structure. So this on this side, it has this material, and this is the side that you put against the fabric, and then you iron it, and you iron the material, and this adheres to it to make your fabric thicker. So I'm going to cut out some for this. I just need a piece big enough. Actually, it needs to be about a quarter of it, about an inch shorter than, oh Lord, an inch shorter than this, because when it wraps around, I only want it to cover the surface of the journal. I don't want it on the edges because it'll be a thick edge and it'll make it difficult. So let's see. I'll likely end up cutting it down even further, but for now, let's just go with this. Okay, let me go here. I also use this when I'm making like wristlets to make it a little, give it a quilted, especially if I'm sewing on the fabric, to give it a design. So I haven't made any wristlets in a couple years. I may have to get back to it, especially with the holiday seasons coming up. If you're interested in seeing how I make one of those wristlets, it's basically a zipper pouch with a handle on it that you can carry on your wrist instead of using a purse. And especially when I had, when Josh was smaller, I carried him quite often, just with my keys, phone, little pieces of makeup, and just shoved it into his diaper bag. All right, so this is the general size of it, but I really just want it the same size as the journal. So this is really where I should have been starting from. So what I'll do here, I have a, I guess I could, makes no sense. No, let me go a little bit smaller. I'm just going to use a Sharpie. And I'm going to cut outside of the line. You can also use this if you're making placemats or mug rugs, you know, little fabric coasters. It adds a little bit of cushion. You don't want too much cushion because you do want whatever's on top of it to be sturdy. But yeah. All right, so I need a little bit probably off of this side, because this also needs to be cut down right here. Notice I could have measured this. I could have measured it with a ruler, and that would have been a little bit more accurate. However, you know how we do here in the crafting world. You know, if we can wing it, eyeball it, we will. All right. So how that will go is wrong. Is that the right thing? Yeah. The fabric will sit like that, and we'll wrap around, and so there'll be a little bit of cushion. It'll also provide some additional support inside for the exterior of the journal. Okay, and then it'll go like so. That worked out good. So take that off, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew this down like this. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I have the iron and a towel set up on my son's desk because it's right across from my workspace as well. So all I'm going to do here is, first thing I need to do is iron down my seams so that they lay flat. So I'm just going to run the iron down the seam. Got to open up the seam first. All right, so I'm running it down the seam. And if that's not a term that you're familiar with, I'm going to show you in just a second. So you have this seam, how it's together. You want it to lay flat like it does here. You don't want it to be like that because it'll cause it to be too thick or irregularly thick in a spot. And considering I don't know where these seams are going to end up, it's best that they lay flat as possible anyways. All right, so once I have these laid down, then I will go ahead and put the fusible fleece with the sticky side up, and then I'll go ahead and lay my fabric with my seams by, you know, the right side of the fabric up. This is not the right side. That's the side that's going to go down on the fleece. This is the right side. Right side up, sticky side up. Okay? And then I want to make sure it's lined the way I want it. And that. Okay? Now, I personally, because I don't know the fabrics that are in these materials, or the blend, I'm going to put a piece of paper on top just to protect the fabric. I need to go find some scrap. Okay, so, and you need to leave it on there for just a second or so to ensure that it adheres. Let's see if it has. Yep, it has. For the most part. Let me pull this over and get the edge. You can also get fleece material that you have at home. If you don't have fusible fleece, but you have some scrap fleece material, maybe you got some pajamas you don't want to use anymore. You can also cut that up and simply sew it to your fabric to get that thickness. Let me just quickly iron that flat because it was not. All right. And because how I'm using it, it doesn't, for me, it's not important that all of the fleece is adhered to the fabric. It's important that the edges are. But if this was something, you know, fashion or something you would wear, something you would carry, you definitely want to make sure that you are thorough in what you do here. For those who are not familiar with this, with sewing, because that's what it is. This is the world of sewing. All right, so here we have it. The fusible fleece is attached, and I'm leaving my iron set up because I'm going to be working on another journal as well, one that I'm commissioned to do. Okay, so we're done with that. So now at this point is where I kind of get the measurement of things all lined up properly to ensure that It's going to sit where I want it to. Okay, so this is how I want it. Okay. And let's see here. Oh, that'll fold fine. This will fold fine. And this will fold fine. I think I'm going to take a little bit off of the top and bottom just so that it's just right along the edge. And so that it's a little bit more even, because Lord knows it isn't right now. I know that some people are like sticklers for the type of glue that they use. For glues that are going to show or have the propensity or the tendency to show, yes, I would be a little bit more accurate in the way, in the place that I set the type of glue that I use, excuse me. I just got off track there. But if it's not going to show, it really is not that serious. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to lay some glue down actually on the cover. Should I do it on the cover? Let me think. Yeah, it's a little bit easier anyways. So I'm using the Aleene's Clear Tacky Gel. You know what? I don't remember if it said you could use this on fabric. Well, we gonna see. It doesn't say it on here whether you can use it for fabric, but it is, I'm assuming that this is just a clear version, a gel version of the other tacky glue. So that being said, I don't have any reason to believe that it shouldn't, because the white tacky glue, it does its job. Okay, so it's not that important that I fully, submerge this in glue, because it's gonna get wrapped around and more paper is going to be added to the top of it. Okay, so we got that, making sure that everything is lined up properly. Okay, so now I'm just gonna flip this over, and I gotta find my boning folder. 1 second. You guys never see me pull this thing out simply because I never need to. I have it, so I have it to use, but I never really need to use it per se, because I end up using this for paper, my paper projects. So I'm just trying to make sure that that's down, because then the next thing that I'm going to do is wrap this around like so. Let me see, how do I want to wrap this corner? I think, yeah, that might work. It'd be a lot easier if I was sewing it. It's bulky. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go along the sides first, and I'm actually gonna use the tacky glue for this, if I can find it. This is a little bit diluted, but it'll do the job. Aleene's tacky glue, that is. Now, when you are adhering fabric to something, and there is a tendency for it to show, there's things that you can do to minimize how much glue seeps through. One of them being to spread your glue out. Just spread it out. It'll still stick. It'll be fine. Okay, so in this case, I'm doing the sides first because that has the least amount of fabric, and I don't want to be worried about it. Actually, yeah, so I need a lot more than that. Or should I say I need to cover a lot more space than that. Okay, so here's the thing. Put it down and don't mess with it too much. Once it seeps through, just let it dry. It'll be fine. Okay? All right, so we have both of those sides. Now I'm going to take this up and wrap it like so. Let me take a little bit of that off. Take a little bit of that out to reduce the bulk. And then we should be fine. Actually, I can, there we go, much better. And let me do that with both sides. So all I did was I just took from the edge out. And then, I don't know if you can see, I'm just cutting up to the cardboard and then removing that extra. And then you can just miter the corner. Don't go too far down, just leave a little bit to cover that corner. And see here, thank goodness that we'll have paper on these edges, because that was cutting it a little close. It's cutting a little close. All right, and so the other thing that I would be concerned about is, I got glue on my hands now, it's gonna look a hot mess, is, let me just finish the corners, I'll be right back. Okay, so what I was getting ready to say before I went and snipped off the edges is, depending on how thick your fabric is or how many layers you got going on, this area here for your fabric would be adhered and would be at your spine, where your spines come together. If it's too bulky, it's going to make it difficult for your book to close effectively. So keep that in mind. One of the ways you can get around that is by mitering out the corners. I don't need to do that. So, but just keep that in mind, especially if you have a lot of fabric going up higher. I won't need to do that. In other videos, you might see me do it, but not today. Okay, I hear my son back there complaining about classwork. He's working at a different part of the house today. You know, a little diversity in his homeschooling days. He enjoys being everywhere in this house. Anywhere but his desk. He probably enjoys doing anything but classwork, but that's not my business and it's not my problem. I'm out of school. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure all of these areas, especially where the fabric, the seams are laying flat, that it's adhered well. Now on top of this, I won't be using regular paper. Keep that in mind. I will be using cardstock. So the cardstock has a tendency to hide a little bit more of the flaws than the thinner papers do. So that may be something you want to consider when you're doing the interior portion. In the interior portion, I'm going to reserve to the last, because I don't know what I'm going to be doing inside of the journal. So it's kind of best that I construct the signatures and get my journaling elements together, and then figure out from there what how I want, whether I want pockets, straight pockets, you know, how do I want the inside to be, and using what paper or fabric or what have you. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then on our next session together, we will work on the signatures and some journaling elements to go inside of our journal. Now also, one thing that, let me just check and see what I have inside of, this is just strap. I think what I would like to use is, let's see, that's pretty, but it's on, that would be nice. That would really be nice. It's also nice as a regular page too. But I want some of this, so I'm going to see if I've got something that will coordinate a little bit better with that. If not, I may end up using one of my jelly prints. We shall see. Yeah, we shall see. Got some nice ones in here. Surely do. Okay, so this was the one that I was considering for the front. I think I might go with that. I think I'm going to go with that. Maybe, let's see. Oh, dear gosh. Now this, I am going to need to be a little bit more, oh gracious, I got things flying all over the place. All right. A little bit more accurate with the cut for it because it's going to be underneath the cover plate, if you will, for the page. And by cover plate, what I mean is I'm actually going to take this and wrap it around cardboard. I'll show you in just a second. Just get a little bit of this extra stuff up off the desk. You know what I mean. You know how it is. All right, so we're going to take this and I just want a little bit of this peeking out just like snow, you know. I'm going to overcut at this point just so I can make sure that I have enough fabric, because I'm going to put the rest of this away. This is a bit much. Oh, and then the fabric scissors. These are not actually fabric scissors, but they are designated for fabric. That's kind of why I've had to put them away. I like that they're stiff for fabric, so it prevents me from cutting too quickly, which saves my fabric. I'm not keeping this amount. I'm just cutting off the excess for now. So the idea is for it to be something like so, a little bit smaller. With the, yep, there we go. Something like that. A little less sticking out. Let me just turn this around. Just get my nerves. All right. Yeah, kind of like that. You know what I mean? All right, so that is it for now. And who knows, by the time it's all said and done, I might even change up on that. But for now, this is the concept that I'm going with. Ooh, look at all that glittery stuff. All right, so I'm just gonna tuck. Well, I gotta wait for that to dry. So actually, what I'll do is I'll just put it in my the pouch that I have for my papers. I like to kind of keep all of my the things that I'm working with for a project together. And the best thing that I have at the moment is I have this is what I gather the papers in to begin with. And once I start the project, then I move everything over to one of these containers, and it sits underneath my desk. I think this one is, this is scrap papers. The other one, I have to pull the last fall projects out that I'm done with, because I'm not using that paper anymore. And then I'll put the winter projects in there. So anyways, guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed this little session, our first session on the Winter's Soul Junk Journal. All right, so listen, now if you are new to the channel and you're still here, I think it's a great time for you to hit the subscribe button, because I don't want you to miss any of the future uploads on this series, okay? Or any of the other content. And for my return subscribers, once again, I thank you. Thank you for continuing to support the channel, for sharing this content in your creative spaces, for your comments and your feedback and your continued inspiration. Now listen, until we're back here together on Patreon and YouTube, my friends, stay encouraged, stay blessed, stay creative and crafty. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe to join the crafty community, and be sure to click the bell for notifications of new uploads. Thank you so much for watching. Now stay tuned for more from Livie's Lovelies, your inspirational craft channel. Bye for now.